Hi there, this is Sean, the Honest Book Reviewer, with another book review. In this video we're discussing Notes on an Execution, written by Danya Kukafka. It's one of the top 12 books in the mystery thriller genres that GOODREADS has ranked for the first half of 2022. I'm not sure exactly how they did this. It's something to do with number of ratings, number of comments about the book, number of reviews, activity about the book on the site, all different things I think go into the rating, and this book is one of the top 12 according to GOODREADS. That's why I chose to read this, so I'm going through that top 12 list. I thought this was quite a good book. It's the first time I've read this author, and I don't know if it's a debut novel or not from this author, but it was a very good read, very interesting read, and I think everybody should read it. This book makes you think about a lot of things when you're reading it. One of the main things it makes you think about is the role of nature or nurture when a child grows. What's more important? What has the most influence? That's one of the big themes I think in this book, and it's one of the standout things that I think is done well in this book and is explored a lot. Let's talk more about the book now. Ansel Packer is an inmate on death row, so he's on his last day waiting for his execution. There are snippets about him, about his thoughts during his last day. We also explore three women who had a big influence in his life, or he influenced their lives. And those three women play parts in different parts of Ansel's history, from when he's a baby almost up to the present day. And they're explored more than Ansel in the book, so the women play a bigger role as you're reading this book. And they're all very different, all very unique. Their voices are very unique in the novel as well, so the author did a great job in creating unique voices for the three ladies in this book, and I think the three women are all very good, very strong characters. We have Lavender, who is Ansel's mother, and she plays a big part in Ansel's years, from when he's a baby, of course, to when he's 4 years old. And when he's 4 years old, Lavender abandons him and his brother. And you get the whole story about why that happens in the book. So that's when we start thinking about, is it nature or nurture that shapes a child? Because their home wasn't very happy. Ansel's father was abusive. He used to beat his mother, Lavender, and also at times beat Ansel when he was very young. So we don't know if those actions, what Ansel experienced, what he saw, what happened to him, did it shape Ansel's behaviour? Did that make Ansel into a killer in later life? Hazel is one of the other women explored in this book, and she's the twin sister of Jenny. And in this story, Jenny is dating Ansel when he's in college. And we see that happen through Helen's eyes, which is quite different. So we're getting kind of a view of Ansel, but not really up close, from a little bit of a distance. And I found that quite intriguing. But we see different parts of Ansel come out when he's in his college years, and we see moments where Helen's kind of not really sure about him. She's got doubts about him, about his behaviour, about his personality, about the person he is. But she doesn't let those doubts come to the forefront. And because of that, did that allow Ansel to go along and do different things in his life? Did Helen have a chance to confront those doubts, to bring them to the forefront? And did she have a chance to stop Ansel before he had a chance to hurt more people in his life? The last person is Safi, or Saffron, and she's quite an intriguing character in this book. She knew Ansel at a group home for orphans. Her mother died when she was about 11 or 12. Ansel had been there since he was rescued at different homes at 4. So they're together at around about 11 or 12 years age in this home. And she's interesting because when they're in this home, there's moments between them that happen, and she recognises something dark and dangerous in Ansel at that age. But she doesn't say anything because she's scared. You know, she's only 12. She's scared what Ansel could do if she does say something, because Ansel even then is acting quite dangerous. He's got a strange way of showing emotions, or he doesn't show emotions at the right time. But he gets caught doing something with animals, and you get a sense that Safi just wants to get away. She's a scared girl. She wants to get away to feel safe. Later on, Safi has her own kind of troubles. She gets into drugs to drink and everything. Something happens to one of her friends, and then she decides to change her life around, and she joins the police force. And later on, we see Safi being a detective in the police force, a young detective, and she's investigating some crimes. And it turns out that one of the main suspects is Ansel. So we have almost like a full circle thing going on. All these characters are joined in this endless kind of storyline in the book. And one of the victims, or supposed victims, of Ansel was another girl. It was this group home with the two of them. So there's another kind of thread in this story that joins them all together. So I found that quite interesting and very intriguing in this book, that this Safi character who was at this group home with Ansel ends up being on the police force and investigating Ansel later on. That was quite well done, quite well plotted, and I think a great element in this story. While I did like the chapters that explored the three women, I didn't really like the way the author wrote the chapters from Ansel's point of view. They were written from a different POV, they had a different structure to the sentences, had a different feel. They just felt disjointed from the rest of the story. So I would have preferred if the POV had been the same POV as the other characters, and still in Ansel's voice, but not change around and play with POV. So I think that his disjointed feel did affect the read to a degree. I did touch on the three women as characters in the section on plot, but let's talk about them in more detail now. So the first is Lavender, and Lavender is Ansel's mother. So in her chapters, we do get her history when she was a girl, and how she ended up in the situation to be in an abusive relationship and then have these children when she was quite young, and she was very isolated. And you get all this sense about her. You get her fear, her confusion, her mistrust of people. You get at the very start, you get this sense of freedom and joy she has in escaping her family home and meeting a guy and feeling grown up and feeling loved in their relationship. And then you get her terror and her dread at being stuck where she is, and you feel all her pain, you feel so much empathy for her. But then she abandons her children, and you kind of shift a bit. You wonder, should she have done that? Did she do the right thing? She was in an awful spot, probably wasn't thinking very clearly. She did what she think was best, but then she ran off and abandoned her own children, and you get a different sense about Lavender. Then later on we meet her again as she's older, in her 40s, and we wonder, what did she learn from that? What is she thinking now? And she's living with these feelings about abandoning her children, and it carries with her all through those years. So you empathise with her again on that. So with Lavender, you kind of find yourself going to and fro in Lavender. Empathise with her. Sometimes you think she did the wrong thing, so you don't empathise with her so much. So I found myself yo-yoing a bit on this character. The character is well written. She's got a clear voice in every stage in her timelines in this novel. And I get every feeling, every emotion she has comes through loud and clear in this book. Very well crafted, very well rounded, a lot of light and shade, a very good character. Safi, who we did discuss in the plot section as well, when she was 12 years old, she was an orphan at the same home as Ansel. They had a kind of run-in at that home, and she escaped to a different home, and she carried some fear about Ansel all through her years. And that fear about Ansel comes into her mind when she's a police officer, and Ansel comes up as a possible suspect in some murders. You get her feelings and her emotions that are playing underneath her skin a bit. You feel all that in this book. And you do empathise with Safi. I empathise with Safi quite a lot in this book, and I found her very engaging, and I found her probably the best character in this story. And I did enjoy her whole storyline, from when she's young all the way to when she's an adult on the police force, and all those years she's trying to solve these murders of these missing girls. When they do find the bodies 10 years after the girls disappear, everything resurfaces again for Safi, and all those feelings she had about Ansel come to the forefront again, and it feels so fresh and new. She's never forgotten all the feelings she had, and you get that sense through Safi in this book. Another great character, another well-rounded character, very complex, again a lot of light and shade, feels very real. All her actions, all her motives do feel real, you understand them, so I thought the character was very well crafted. Hazel is a different sort of character, so she hasn't got the direct connection with Ansel, but her twin sister does. So we see things through Hazel's eyes as she's watching her twin sister Jenny and Ansel at different periods, and it's mainly at a Christmas dinner, with Ansel being invited to stay over Christmas one year, and you see different things about Ansel during that time. And you get different dialogue and interactions between Hazel and Jenny at that time as well. And I thought that was quite well done to have that little bit of distance between Ansel and this character, but enough there to get a true sense of what Ansel was like at that time of life when he was in college, around his early 20s. Hazel is an interesting character because she doesn't feel like herself in this book. She feels like a part of a single unit with her twin. So she's always struggling for identity, for her self-identity, and that plays a big part into how she acts or reacts to things about Ansel, because she wants to find her true self, who she is. She wants to be individual from her twin, so she has that bit of a disconnect, and that might play into the fact where when she sees some things about Ansel, has some doubts, she doesn't act on them because that's about Jenny, and she's not always comfortable with who Jenny is, not always happy with Jenny. Sometimes she's jealous of Jenny, and that plays into all that as well. So Hazel is, again, a complex character. She has a lot of light and shade again, very well crafted. You feel everything about her is real, and we see her grow in the storyline as well through the book. She grows up, she has her own family, and we see how some of the things between her and Jenny switch a bit in the book. So Hazel becomes the more stable one, the one that Jenny runs to, and before that it seemed the other way around. So you see a lot of growth in Hazel in this book as well, and in fact you see quite a bit of growth in all the characters. I like this book very much, and I would read another book by the same author without a doubt. I rate this a 4 out of 5. For me, it was not a perfect book. It was very much above average, and the characters were so good. The plotting was really good in this book as well. The character growth, their story arcs were so well plotted, so well written, but there was just some little things in there that didn't make it a perfect read. One of the big things were Ansel's chapters. I didn't like his chapters at all. I thought they were a bit disjointed from the rest of the story. I do have other mystery books on my channel. If you don't want to miss out on those videos, check out my channel and subscribe. There's also a mystery playlist on my channel. It should be on your screen now.